Blood and Pigment channel. I'm Joseph, and in this video we're going to be looking at the new sloop model. Raise the Black Kickstarter is finally shipped and is being delivered to backers right now. The starter set contains two of these new multi-part hard plastic sloop models. This is a finished one. A pretty easy kit, really. Not a lot of things to do wrong, but I was going to open it up, look at the sprues, and do a little guide on how to put things together. There's a couple things that you can do in the wrong order that make the process harder, but it's exciting to finally have the cheaper and nice and small and flexible little sloop here from Raise the Black. It should be fun and should be able to get a lot more people into the game. So if you're watching, just looking at Blood and Plunder, this is a great place to start. This two-player starter box has 26 models and 2 sloops and dice and cards and everything you need to play in it. So that's a great place to start. And if you're starting there, you'll be wanting to build these sloops pretty fast. So let's open up. This is the same sloop, just in individual packaging. We're going to open up this box, look at the sprues, start cutting some pieces out and gluing this model together. Alright, here's what we have in the box for the 18th century sloop. Here's our various sprues. We have one sprue with all the cannons, some of the rigging elements, swivel guns, and cannon hatches here. We won't need this one for a little bit. The cannons have to be put together. They look weird, but they put together pretty easy. Here is the second sprue. These are the large pieces, the main deck, the stern part here. So these are the biggest pieces. Here's the third sprue. This has all the masts and spars and a couple wall pieces, a door, the figurehead, a couple optional pieces that is not readily apparent, but there's a couple ways to do the prow of the ship. Anchor in there, and then here's the fourth and last sprue. This has the main sides of the hull here, rudder, and then we got 2 ship cards. You can build this 2 ways, as a Balandra, which is a little simpler, a little sturdier. It's more like a basic small sloop. Has a good windward value, basic. Has a little more life, basic 430. Sail settings, good complement of cannons and swivels. The Bermuda sloop's a little faster, has a top speed of 5. I'm getting distracted looking at all these ship cards, but it's costs a little more nimble, but a little more flimsy. And then last we have the instructions, which I built this first one without any instructions at all, figured it out. Not a hard model, but this is helpful as well. Alright, let's start. Let's cut out some of the main pieces and let's make this into a ship. Alright, let's cut out some of these pieces. For this job, you're going to want some flush cutters. This is the nice GW one. Kind of expensive, but they're really nice. Army Painter has a nice one, a cheap one. There's a lot of options. I got a file and a craft knife, nothing special, and some glue for later. All right, I've cut out the biggest pieces to assemble the whole, but we're gonna take a break from that real quick and look at the cannons, because you might need the cannons early in the building process. So the cannon, it's come in 5 parts: the barrel, 2 sets of wheels, and 2 sides. It's not intuitive, but the instructions are pretty clear on the other side of this piece of paper. We're just gonna try to glue these together. There's 8 cannons in the box. This is Model Master glue, but everybody has their own favorite plastic glues. I just like this one because I have it. So I glued the wheels on first, and then while the glue is not yet dry, I gotta put the sides on as well. Straighten everything out before it dries. I don't like gluing the stuff together like this, but it works. Right, there you have a cannon. Pretty easy. All right, we've got some cannons glued together. Now we've come to the biggest moment working on this ship, where we glue the main hull and decks all together. And there is one gotcha moment here if you aren't careful. The way this goes together, you got your main deck, you got this little wall here, and then you got this raised deck in the back. But you might want to have cannons in this cannon port here. And if you want to have a cannon there, you have to do it now, because as soon as you glue this on, you don't really have access to that covered deck anymore. You could leave this free, but it doesn't really come out once you have it painted, so I wouldn't recommend that. So, a couple options here. If you want every bit of this ship painted, you need to glue this deck to this half, and then paint this, prime it, and paint it however you want it painted, and then paint these cannons. Then you wouldn't have to paint them. Glue them in now. Once you get it, this is the only opening into that deck, which it's very, very difficult to place a cannon carefully through that little opening. The other option you have is just leaving the cannon off, or you can put your cannon port hatches on and have that cannon port closed. But if you want a cannon sticking out of that port, this is kind of what you have to do. So I am going to glue in an unpainted cannon. From my experience with this ship here, you can't really see into that gun port very much. So I primed it black so it's nice and dark. I'm gonna try an unpainted cannon in there, glue it in, and then spray it and paint it up that way. I think it'll be just fine. But if you're OCD, you might want to paint all this now and then proceed with the assembly. Okay, we have our 2 cannons. We have all our pieces. We're going to start by gluing this wall in place. And again, you might want to paint this ahead of time. If you want it painted, you have to do it now. I'm being lazy, and I'm just going to paint the tips of the cannons because that's mostly what you can see. It's not optimal, but that's what I'm going to do this time. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue these cannons in place. So I'm going to match up the main deck here. You just push that cannon all the way up to the wall. I got glue kind of all over the deck, but it doesn't really matter if you're going to see it. And I want it crooked because it pokes out. the port the most that way, and that's how I want it. All right, got those cannons placed. I'm gonna let those cannons dry, and then I'm gonna assemble the decks and hull all together. All right, we're gonna put this ship together. Before you start, I recommend you have some rubber bands on hand. It'll be helpful, unless you want to sit there like an idiot and hold it for a half hour, 20 minutes. Rubber bands are going to help. You can just band it together and keep it nice and tight as it dries. So grab a couple of rubber bands, then come back, and I'm going to glue this together. All right, now this is a bit of a trick because you have a bunch of pieces that kind of have to go together at the same time. First, we can glue the stern here to one of the sides of the hull. So let's start with that. And now we have this big deck that has to fit in place. So nice ridge for it to lie on. And then we have this little indent there. We have the wall, we know it's gonna be there. And then this is gonna go on top. And there is one more piece that goes, this is the little tiller. I put this together, it's two pieces. It goes right there. You can put it on now, or the hole is big enough, you can put it on later. I'm gonna put it on later just because I have holding so many pieces already. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this deck on. And then we're gonna set that down carefully and quickly apply our glue to this piece before it dries over there. And starting from the rear, fit it all together, hopefully. There we go. And now this is, I want to make sure all your joints are tight here. And this is where you want to band it so you don't have to stand here and hold it. And that is the hardest part of the whole process. Make sure you got everything in place. There we go. There's your hole. All right, we're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna start working on the exterior pieces. We're going to assemble the chain plates now. These go into the side, the part of the rigging. You can see right here what we're looking at here. We got this chain plate, and then we have these blocks with chains to glue in. These pieces are on the cannon sprue, and these pieces are on the mast sprue. Actually, I think it's easier to glue the chain plate in place and then glue the blocks in. And these chain plates have 3 and then 1. You want to put those so they nicely go around the gun port so you don't blow your rigging up with your cannon. And then seems like the best way to put these blocks in is to actually put glue down here. A little glue right there. And then slide the block through the hole and have the main glue joint right there. You can actually tie your rigging to these. Do it on the other side as well. Next, we're going to assemble the beakhead. Now you have two options here. You have the simpler one, this goes around, or you have the more forward, longer one that you can put the figurehead on. It does tell you have an option in the instructions here, but it can be confusing. This is an extra piece. If one of these is going to be an extra piece, you can see how I use the longer one with the figurehead here, and that's what I'm going to do again today because I think it's the coolest. So we have 4 parts. We're going to glue this piece in first, and then these pieces go around it. It's a bit of a trick. Let's see. Ideally, you don't get glue all over the place, but they lock together like that. And then you can glue figurehead on the front if you want it, or you can just cut off that nub if you don't want it. There we go. Let's go ahead and look at the stern. Now in the stern you have 2 options. You have this false window plate that makes the ship look bigger than it is, or you have this little decoration. I did the decoration last time, so I'm going to put the window plate in this time. Yeah, the windows go onto the open deck, so they're fake, but they use that to deceive their enemies, make it look like they have a bigger ship than they had. Alright, that's starting to look like a ship. Next, we can glue on the little hatches. You can leave these off. They are the most fragile part of a ship's hull. If this is going to be a workhorse ship for you and your fleet, and you're going to take it in your car a lot, you can leave them off. They usually had them so they wouldn't get their ship swamped. But for some smaller ships, they just didn't have them. So your choice. I dislike putting these on, but if you want to put them on, you can put them on closed if you want that, or you can have them open. You can go straight out, but that's the most fragile. You can do mostly up, which seems to be the most realistic, or you can go straight up, which seems to defy the laws of hinge physics, but it is another option. And you can do that to all 8 ports. Now we're going to assemble some of the accessories while our hatches dry. Now, one of the weirdest parts of this ship it's fun to have cool little historical details. This little bilge pump, it tells you how to assemble it, but it doesn't really tell you where to put it on the ship. You can just glue it on the deck somewhere if you want it. But my recommendation is don't, unless you really, really like it. But it's a cute little guy. You can just glue it on the deck near the main mast, I think. But it's a 4-piece little pump. But I'm not going to put it on my deck because it just makes it harder to fit models on the deck. So I'll just set that aside. Then other accessories that we do want to use, we have our anchor. We have the rudder, which we need to put on. And then we have this capstan to, I think it's for the anchor, but it might be for some other rigging. So, well, I guess we should start with the anchor. That'd be easy. more pieces to put on the capstan here. You can make this turn if you're careful, but it takes some tricky gluing. Just turn this a couple times while it's dry. You can make sure it doesn't connect. It's kind of fun to turn. And the rudder. And there's a teeny piece that easy to miss where it goes. It connects the two pieces of the rudder right here, which is nice. Now we might as well put the tiller in while we're at it. I assembled the tiller, although I didn't glue it. The two pieces here. We're getting close. Now we have this lantern we can put in the back too. Some people might prefer leaving some of these details off, painting them separately, and then adding them near the end. It can be a pain to paint around all these things. You might break them and knock them off during the painting process, but we're gonna put it all together this time. All right, that is, oh, we got the door to the cabin left. So let's just put that in. I think that's pretty much the whole of the ship. And you don't have to glue this in. You could glue it open, or you could just push it in and take it in and out, so you can have your door open if you want. But otherwise, just glues in there. We're gonna glue it today. Don't push it through. These holes here are just windows, just little porthole windows. So that's what it's supposed to be like. All right, done a lot here. We got our windlass or capstan. We got our chain guards with our chains. We got our gun ports. Got our tiller. Got our door. We got our whole deck put together. We got the prow, or the I forget the name of this, but and the figurehead. We got our lantern on the back. We got our cannons glued onto the lower deck. Now we're ready to do the masts. The masts are a little bit tricky too. And the thing about the masts is I'm not going to glue them on yet. It's much easier to paint this hole when you don't have the masts on it. You can move it around and get the right angles. As soon as you get the mast, you're going to poke your eye out. So I'm going to glue the masts together and fit them in place, but not glue them in place, because I would rather paint and keep my eyeballs. All right, we've come to the masts. These can be a little confusing. We got two main systems. We got the main mast, and we got the main mast here with the big gaff sail. Then we got this front mast. I think it's called the bowsprit. But I always forget the names of the masts, or all the parts when I'm on camera. So we got these two systems. The main mast is a little more complex, and you have a choice. The Balandra, the more basic one, is just a basic sloop, and you don't have this top sail. In that case, you won't need these two spars. So if you're doing the simpler ship, you don't need these. If you're doing the Bermuda sloop, you will need them. I'm going to do the Bermuda sloop just because it's a fun ship and I like the top sail. So we're going to use these in a minute. But for now, here we got our main mast. It has this angled nub to fit in here. We aren't going to glue it into the ship yet though, because it's easier to paint, in my opinion, without it in. So we got the big spar here and the top one. You can look at how it's built and I'm going to just build it the way it says. You can move this down quite a bit if you want. Drill a new hole and make a little bigger gaff sail. That looks a little cooler, but it does get in the way of the miniatures. This gaff sail is set pretty high, making the sail pretty small, but it does leave a lot of room for fingers and miniatures on deck, which is nice. But if you want that sail a little bigger, move it down and adjust the sail template accordingly. But we're just gonna glue it as regular. So we just got these two pieces we're gonna glue on the main mast, and then we're gonna move to the bowsprit while they dry. All right, that can just dry there, and then we'll put the pieces on in a minute. Here is the bowsprit. We got 4 pieces here. We got the main piece, the front piece, and we got these 2 little connectors. Our goal is to make it look like this. So we got these 2 pieces that are almost the same, but one of them is slightly bigger than the other. We're gonna take the bigger one, slide it on this first, and then the smaller one, and we're going to use the larger holes for the smaller piece like that, because then this fits in like that. So we're going to glue these pieces on. All right, there is that. Now we just slide that on here, and this also has a connector, so we need to be conscious of where that connector is. If it's meeting the deck there, we want this piece on top, so we're going to angle it like that and glue it in. Very important to make sure you check it, make sure you got it right. There we go. We're on the home stretch. We just have the main mast to finish up here. So we got our big spars in place here for the big gaff sail. They're dry. Now we're going to put the top part of the mast in. And this is another one of the trickier parts because it has this funky little piece. I don't even know what this is called. I should, but I don't. And you got these 4 pieces that all have to go together somehow. So we're going to take the top mast and slide it through the smaller part. And this top mast has a little divot here for your top sail spar. So we want to have that in front, which means you have to get that over it. So you have this connector, and then you have a little divot, and then got this piece we're gonna slide there, and then this goes through that like that. It's a little puzzle. And then we glue this in place. This can be loose as far as I can tell. I liked having the gap here when I put the rigging on itself, the elastic band. So I wouldn't want to squish it up like that, but have a little space. All right, so I'm going to glue this in place. Thread this through. There we go. And then we have a divot here for your bottom spar. Keep that nice and straight with everything else. just fine. All right, we're gonna wait for that to dry for a minute, and then we're gonna put the spars on for the topsail. If you're doing the Balandra, you're done. Otherwise, we need to put the spars on. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that. So we got, I don't know if you can see very well. It's hard to manage my camera here. Divots for our bigger one on the bottom, smaller one on top, and you got your setup for your topsail. And I'm going to put that in the ship to dry. It's not focusing where I want it. There we go. All right, that ship is complete. Then I wouldn't glue the mast in yet because it's easier to paint without the mast in. Prime the mast by themselves, paint them, then glue them in. That's my idea of a good time. Here is that finished rigging one more time. I got more rigging on here than you need, more lines, but it's fun. All right, I'll add some pictures of it all glued together at the end here after it's dry, but that is a complete build of the 18th century sloop. You can use your anchor as accessory. You can tie that in off the side or hung off the front, I think. But that's the whole ship. It's a nice little project. It should take only an evening to glue together. And then it's not a whole lot of work to paint either. It has good texture to it. You can paint it with a dry brushing technique pretty easily, or with whatever technique you enjoy, and rig it up. It's probably a 2-day, 3-day project. Any questions? Drop in the comments. I'll have some pictures here at the end. Thanks for watching.